I'm making this video specifically for my people who have an open mind when it comes to their musical taste. The people who are a little more adventurous, who are willing to explore certain things. And earlier this year, I was on a real big time blues kick. I was listening to artists such as Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, the regular heavy hitters. And my streaming service, it introduced me to something I had never heard before. It was Mississippi John Hurt, Leadbelly. And I wanted to focus on those two artists because they have a song that's very similar that teaches a valuable lesson about current society. I look at music and vinyl collecting like anthropology to a certain extent. You can learn a lot about the culture and the times that these men grew up in based on the lyrics. So I purchased this Leadbelly kind of greatest hits record. Pretty sure you've seen it. I've seen it for years and I kind of overlooked it because it was a little off-putting. You know, it's black and white. The picture, the man's got a scarf around his neck, which the scarf tells a crazy story about his life. He's standing there with no shoes on oak barrels playing a guitar. What is this? You know what I mean? But if you notice, the name of the album was Where Did You Sleep Last Night? And Where Did You Sleep Last Night was performed by Nirvana on their MTV Unplugged concert, I believe it was. So this man's a heavy hitter when it comes to music. But he has a song that I heard from a mix that was put out by the Library of Congress. And it's called Take This Hammer. And the other artist that I mentioned, which I don't have any of his records in my collection yet, Mississippi John Hurt has a album called Spike Driver Blues. And in the two songs, they both have lyrics that go to the effect of take this hammer and carry it to my captain and tell him I'm gone. Which means basically they were tired of doing the backbreaking work that it took to lay the railroad tracks across America. And it makes me think about our situation that we find ourselves in today. I listened to those songs over and over again and I couldn't figure out the thought process behind just walking off a job that was paying money. And what I realized was in that day, the people were so much more self-sufficient. Yes, the thought of earning money to purchase goods is enticing, but we have skills. We can not only do manual labor, but we can also farm. We can also build houses. We could sew clothes and patch clothes and wash them ourselves and everything. So the idea of having a job was not so much a necessity to certain people in rural areas because they had skills. When you look at us today, there's not many of us who could just say, I don't like the treatment that I'm receiving on this job, so I'm going to just walk out. That thought is crazy because our first thought is, where are we going to get the money? But the fact is, our reliance on convenience, our reliance on the system is what keeps us held captive. I go to a restaurant like Chick-fil-A on a daily basis. And whether it's breakfast, whether it's lunch, or whether it's dinner, you would be amazed to see how many people are waiting in line because the fact of the matter is nobody knows how to cook anymore. But unlike how it was in the early 20s, 30s, 40s, there was a shift in society where we relied more on a paycheck than on developing ourselves and our skills that would enable us to survive. The average person I would presume, and you can contend with me on this if you want to in the comment section, but the average person doesn't know the process of growing anything. They don't know how to put a seed in fertile soil, give it the right environment with sunlight and water, and grow something that can produce for them over and over and over again. We weren't taught to think like that in school. We were taught to get up, sacrifice our minds, sacrifice our bodies, sacrifice time with our families, raising our children in order to chase a paycheck. Outside of this skill I'm trying to develop as far as communication goes, I don't have any marketable skills as far as making a situation for my family to survive. I would have to rely on making money and taking that money and handing it over to someone else who does have those skills. But back in the days with the blues musicians, they sung about being able to say, listen, I don't need this job because the work conditions are unfavorable. So I'm going back to my house and living my modest lifestyle. You know, the shotgun house that my daddy built or that I built. And I'm going to just go out on the farmland and eat from the land that I own and control. Very few people in this society nowadays can say that. And it's a sad state of affairs because it makes us captives to the system. You wouldn't have to make it a goal to live completely off the grid. But I think everybody should make it a goal, including myself. We should all make the goal to learn new skills that can increase our rate of survival without relying wholly on the system. I think it would do a lot for our mental health. It would do a lot for our self-esteem. And eventually we can get to the point, maybe, if we develop our skills well enough, we could get to the point where we don't have to rely so heavily on the system, which the system, knowing that we have to rely on them so much, the system can misuse and abuse and mistreat us any kind of way that they want. Trade schools are something that need to become popular again, because we've seen over the last decade or more that college degrees, corporate America, is not a way to ensure long-term success. Now, I'm just a random guy on the internet. You can take my words with a grain of salt. But I've heard many stories of people who gave a company 20 to 30 years, and when they were just on the cusp of retirement, they were let go. If you don't want to be in that scenario, you have to get you a marketable skill that you could use for a lifetime and keep updating those skills. Don't just stay stagnant in one place, because the world is forever changing. Not only is the world forever changing, it's changing fast. So make sure that you're a lifelong learner. Completely eliminate this feeling of complacency. And maybe we could live lives like the old blues musicians who held skills that allowed them to maintain their self-respect and not be mistreated on job sites, to where they could just say, I'm done dealing with this treatment. I'm going on to do my own thing.